Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. Written and published by Echo Elevate. Introduction. What if the key to transforming your life wasn't in making huge dramatic changes, but in the small habits you practice every day? In Atomic Habits, we'll explore how tiny, consistent actions can lead to extraordinary results. It's not about overnight success, but about making small improvements that compound over time. You'll discover how habits are formed, how they work, and most importantly, how you can take control of them. Whether you want to build healthier routines, break bad habits, or simply improve your daily life, this book will give you the tools to make it happen. By the end, you'll understand simple, proven strategies to build lasting habits that stick. These methods are backed by science and designed to help you make real, lasting changes, one small habit at a time. The journey to lasting change begins now. Chapter 1. The Power of Atomic Habits. Imagine a plane flying from Los Angeles to New York. If the pilot sets the plane's course just a few degrees off target, it would end up hundreds of miles away from its intended destination. Now consider this. What if you could make tiny adjustments to the direction of your life, just like the pilot making slight changes to the plane's course? Over time, those small shifts would lead to a completely different outcome. This is the essence of atomic habits. Small, incremental changes, when practiced consistently, can lead to remarkable transformations. The term atomic refers to something small but powerful, just like an atom. A small habit, when repeated over time, has the potential to compound into something far greater than its original form. These small habits build the foundation for long-term success and personal transformation. In this chapter, we will dive deep into the power of atomic habits and explore how tiny changes can produce big results. We will see how the consistency of small actions compounds over time, leading to profound improvements in your life. The compound effect of small changes. Small habits may seem insignificant at first, but their impact grows exponentially over time. This concept is known as the compound effect. Think of it like the snowball effect, starting small but gaining momentum as it rolls forward. For example, let's say you decide to read just one page of a book every day. That might seem trivial, right? But if you stick with it, that one page could turn into 5 pages, and eventually, you could finish an entire book. Over a year, reading just one page a day would result in reading about 365 pages. Enough for a solid book. Imagine how many books you could read over a few years with just a tiny daily commitment. In the same way, small habits related to exercise, nutrition, or productivity compound. If you commit to exercising for just 5 minutes a day, you might initially think it's not enough to make a difference. But over time, that 5 minutes becomes 10, then 20, and soon, you've built a fitness routine. That small habit has led to a bigger, lasting change. The key is consistency. Even small efforts, when repeated regularly, can lead to significant changes over time. It's not about doing something big all at once. It's about making small improvements each day and allowing them to compound. The power of consistency. Imagine a friend who is trying to get in shape. One day, they spend hours at the gym, working out intensely. The next day, they don't work out at all. After a few weeks, they're frustrated because they haven't seen much progress. Now imagine someone else who only works out for 20 minutes a day, but does it consistently. At first, their progress might seem slow, but over time, those 20 minutes add up. In a few months, they'll have built significant strength and endurance. The difference is in the consistency. One person tries to make up for lost time with occasional bursts of effort, while the other person improves gradually, but steadily. It's important to understand that habits aren't built through occasional intense effort. They're built by showing up consistently, day after day, even when progress seems slow. The key is in making small, consistent changes and sticking with them long enough to see results. These small habits don't need to be perfect. They just need to be consistent. The science behind habit formation. Habits are powerful because they are driven by the brain's desire to conserve energy. Our brain is wired to look for shortcuts and patterns to save mental energy. This is why habits, once formed, become automatic. The brain can do them without much thought, which frees up mental space for other tasks. Habits form through a process called looping. A habit loop has three parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. Cue. This is the trigger that starts the habit. It could be an event, a time of day, a location, or even a feeling. Routine. This is the behavior or action you take in response to the cue. For example, if the cue is feeling stressed, the routine might be going for a run to relieve tension. Reward. This is the positive feeling or outcome you get after completing the routine. The reward reinforces the habit, making it more likely that you'll repeat the behavior in the future. Over time, this loop becomes stronger and more ingrained in your brain, which makes the behavior automatic. The key to building lasting habits is to make sure the reward is satisfying, so your brain associates the behavior with positive feelings. This satisfaction makes it easier for the habit to stick. Tiny changes, big results. One of the most powerful aspects of atomic habits is their ability to create results far greater than the sum of their parts. This is the core idea behind the concept of marginal gains. Small improvements in many areas of your life can add up to something much bigger. Consider the story of British cycling coach Sir Dave Brailsford, who took over the cycling team in 2003. Instead of focusing on a few big changes, Brailsford focused on making tiny improvements across many areas. He looked for small ways to optimize everything, from the riders' sleep quality to the design of their bikes. These small improvements led to an extraordinary performance at the 2008 Olympics, where the British cycling team won 8 gold medals, more than they had ever won before. This is how atomic habits work. They may seem insignificant on their own, but when you make small changes in multiple areas of your life, the results can be extraordinary. By focusing on the little things, things like getting an extra hour of sleep, making one better food choice, or practicing one productive habit every day, you build momentum that leads to big changes. The importance of identity. Another important aspect of atomic habits is that they shape your identity. Habits are not just about achieving specific goals. They are about becoming the type of person who achieves those goals. For example, if you want to get fit, focusing on the goal of losing 20 pounds might seem like the right approach. But the real transformation comes when you focus on becoming the type of person who values health and fitness. Instead of saying, "I want to lose weight," you might say, "I am someone who takes care of my body." This shift in identity makes a profound difference. When you see yourself as the type of person who exercises regularly or eats healthy foods, your habits will naturally align with that identity. The goal is to reinforce this identity with small actions every day. As you consistently act in ways that support this new identity, your habits will change, and your results will follow. Conclusion. The power of atomic habits lies in their simplicity and consistency. Small changes, made consistently over time, can lead to life-changing results. By focusing on the fundamentals of habit formation, creating small habits, staying consistent, and reinforcing positive identity shifts, you can unlock the power of compound growth. As we continue this journey together, remember that it's not about making dramatic, overnight changes. It's about starting small, staying consistent, and letting those small habits work their magic over time. With patience and persistence, atomic habits will transform your life in ways you never imagined. The journey begins with just one small step. Let's take it together. Chapter 2. Why tiny changes make a big difference. Imagine you're trying to change something in your life. Maybe you want to get fitter, become more productive, or break a bad habit. It's easy to think that you need to make drastic changes to see any real progress. However, the truth is, tiny changes can have a massive impact over time. In this chapter, we'll explore why small adjustments to your daily habits often lead to big results. We'll look at how these tiny changes accumulate and build up, creating a ripple effect that can transform your life in ways you might not expect. The power of small wins. Let's begin with a simple idea. Small wins lead to big wins. You don't need to make huge leaps to see change. Just like a snowball rolling down a hill, small actions, when repeated, build momentum. This is the core principle of how tiny changes make a difference. Think about something you do every day. Maybe you drink a cup of coffee in the morning, or take a walk after lunch. These actions might seem trivial, but they're actually shaping the direction of your life. The more consistent you are with these tiny habits, the more they build up over time, leading to larger, more meaningful outcomes. One great example is how a small change in your daily routine can shift your health over time. Imagine you start by drinking one extra glass of water each day. That's a tiny change. But over a year, that small habit can have a significant impact on your health and well-being. It may lead to more energy, better digestion, and even improved skin, all from a single small decision. This is the magic of tiny changes. They don't feel overwhelming in the moment, but over time, their impact is undeniable. The compound effect of small changes. Small changes in behavior don't just add up, they compound. This is called the compound effect. It's the idea that small consistent actions will build on each other over time, leading to exponential growth. The compound effect is the reason why tiny changes can have such a big impact. For example, let's say you read just 10 pages of a book every day. At first, it might not seem like much, but if you stick with it, you'll have read 3,650 pages in a year, enough for about 10 full books. If you make this a habit, it'll continue to build year after year, increasing your knowledge and personal growth without you even realizing it. The same principle applies to exercise. If you commit to walking for just 10 minutes every day, that's a small change, but over time, those 10-minute walks add up. After a year, you'll have walked for over 60 hours. Think of how that will impact your fitness and overall health. What's important here is that those small steps add up without feeling like a huge commitment. Over time, these tiny changes compound and lead to extraordinary results. The key to success is consistency. By making small, sustainable changes and sticking with them, you'll see massive benefits in the long run. Small changes create big leverage. One of the reasons small changes are so powerful is that they create leverage. When you make a small change in one area of your life, it often creates ripple effects in other areas. For example, if you start exercising for 10 minutes a day, it might seem like a small action, but this tiny habit can lead to other positive changes. You might start eating better because you're more conscious of your health. You might sleep better because you're moving your body. Over time, this small change leads to improvements in multiple aspects of your life. The power of leverage is that a single small change can produce a chain reaction of positive outcomes. It's not about trying to fix everything at once. Instead, you focus on the small actions that create the most impact, and let them naturally influence other areas of your life. For example, if you start waking up 10 minutes earlier to meditate or plan your day, you'll likely find that you're more focused, productive, and calm throughout the day. That small shift in your morning routine might then lead to better work performance or improved relationships. Again, it's all about the compound effect. Tiny changes can have an outsized impact on other areas of your life. The problem with the all-or-nothing mindset. Many people struggle with the all-or-nothing mindset, which says that if you can't make a big change, you shouldn't bother making any change at all. This kind of thinking can be paralyzing and prevent you from starting at all. For example, you might think, if I can't work out for an hour at the gym, why even bother going for a walk? Or if I can't eat a perfect diet, I might as well eat whatever I want. This mindset keeps you stuck, because it leads to feelings of failure when you don't meet unrealistic standards. But here's the thing, even small changes can make a huge difference. And it's better to start small than not start at all. The key is to break free from perfectionism and focus on consistent progress. Even the smallest actions, done consistently, can add up to something significant. By letting go of the all-or-nothing mindset, you open the door to steady, lasting change. Why tiny changes are easier to stick with. One of the reasons tiny changes are so powerful is that they're easy to stick with. When you try to make a big change all at once, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and burn out. But small changes don't feel as intimidating. They're simple to implement, and they don't require a lot of energy or willpower. For example, instead of committing to running a marathon, you might start by walking for 10 minutes a day. After a few weeks, you might find that you enjoy walking, so you increase it to 15 minutes a day. Over time, this small habit could lead to running a marathon, but you didn't start with that goal in mind. You simply started with something manageable, and let it grow from there. Tiny changes also allow you to celebrate small wins, which builds momentum. Each time you succeed with a small change, it boosts your confidence and motivation. This positive feedback loop makes it easier to keep going and to build even more habits over time. The role of identity in small changes. When you focus on small changes, you're also working on building your identity. Identity plays a critical role in habit formation. If you want to become a healthier person, for example, it's important to start thinking of yourself as someone who values health. Rather than just focusing on losing weight or exercising, you shift your identity to that of a fit, healthy person who makes small healthy choices every day. When you see yourself as the type of person who makes small but impactful changes, your habits will naturally align with that identity. Each tiny change you make reinforces your new identity and helps you stay on track. Over time, this process shifts from being about specific actions to becoming about who you are at your core. For example, if you're trying to build a reading habit, instead of thinking of yourself as someone who reads to finish a book, think of yourself as someone who is simply a reader. This shift in mindset makes reading feel natural and sustainable. It's no longer a task you have to complete. It's something that becomes part of who you are. Conclusion. Tiny changes have the power to make a big difference, because they compound over time, create leverage in other areas of your life, and are easier to stick with. By focusing on small manageable habits and committing to consistent progress, you'll see results that far exceed your expectations. The beauty of atomic habits is that they don't require perfection, only consistency. It's the small changes, made day after day, that lead to the kind of transformation that lasts. So instead of trying to overhaul your life all at once, start small, focus on the little things, and watch as they add up to big changes. The journey to success begins with one small step, and every small change you make brings you closer to the life you want to create. Chapter 3. The 4 Laws of Behavior Change. If you've ever tried to change a habit, you know how challenging it can be. Whether it's quitting smoking, starting a daily exercise routine, or cutting down on screen time, changing your behavior requires more than just willpower or motivation. It requires a deeper understanding of how habits work, and more importantly, how to reshape them. In this chapter, we'll explore the 4 fundamental laws of behavior change. These laws are simple, practical principles that can help you build good habits and break bad ones. By understanding these laws, you'll be able to design your environment and actions in a way that makes positive behavior easier to start and negative behavior harder to continue. The first law, make it obvious. The first law of behavior change is making the desired behavior obvious. If you want to develop a new habit, you need to make the cues for that habit clear and easy to spot. If you're trying to remember to drink more water, for example, leave a water bottle on your desk, where you can see it. If you want to start a morning exercise routine, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Making cues obvious works, because your brain is constantly looking for triggers that prompt action. By making the cue visible, you're more likely to perform the behavior. When a cue is obvious, it becomes much easier to start the habit. One popular strategy for making habits obvious is called habit stacking. This involves pairing a new habit with an existing one. For example, if you already brush your teeth every morning, you can stack a new habit, like stretching for 5 minutes, right after brushing your teeth. The action of brushing your teeth acts as the cue for the new habit, making it more obvious and easier to remember. The key to making a behavior obvious is to design your environment in a way that prompts you to take action. The more visible and clear the cue, the more likely you are to take the first step toward your goal. The second law: make it attractive. Once the cue for a habit is obvious, the next step is to make the behavior itself attractive. We are naturally drawn to things that feel rewarding, and to build a lasting habit, you need to ensure that the habit is something you look forward to. To do this, you can use what is called the dopamine-driven feedback loop. Dopamine is the brain's pleasure chemical, and we experience a hit of dopamine whenever we do something rewarding or pleasurable. By pairing a habit you want to build with something that brings you joy or satisfaction, you can increase the likelihood of repeating the behavior. For example, if you want to make exercise more attractive, listen to your favorite music or podcast while you work out. The music or podcast acts as a reward that makes the exercise feel less like a chore and more enjoyable. Over time, your brain will begin associating the activity with positive emotions, and the habit will become something you look forward to rather than avoid. Another way to make habits more attractive is by using a technique known as temptation bundling. This involves pairing a habit you need to do with something you want to do. For example, if you want to start reading more, allow yourself to watch your favorite TV show only while you're on the treadmill. This way you'll look forward to your workout, because it's linked to a rewarding activity you enjoy. The more attractive a habit feels, the more likely you are to stick with it. Making your habits pleasurable ensures that you will want to do them again and again. The third law: make it easy. The third law of behavior change is to make the desired habit as easy as possible. The easier a habit is to perform, the more likely you are to do it. One of the main reasons people fail to stick with their habits is that they make them too complicated or time-consuming. But when habits are simple and straightforward, they become much easier to maintain. The key to making a habit easy is reducing friction, the things that make a habit harder to start. For example, if you want to eat healthier, keep healthy snacks like fruits or nuts within easy reach. If you want to exercise regularly, choose a gym that's close to your home, or find a workout routine that doesn't require complicated equipment. The simpler the habit, the less energy and effort it takes to get started. One powerful method for making habits easy is called 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule suggests that any habit can be started in just 2 minutes. If you want to run a marathon, for example, don't focus on the 26.2 miles. Instead, focus on putting on your running shoes and running for just 2 minutes. Starting small is key, because it's easier to commit to a 2-minute action than to an hour-long workout. Once you start, you're likely to continue past the 2-minute mark and do more. Another way to make habits easy is to reduce the number of steps required to complete the habit. For example, if you want to write every day, leave a notebook and pen on your desk so it's easy to get started. By eliminating unnecessary steps, you lower the resistance to taking action, making it much easier to follow through. The easier you make a habit to start, the more likely you are to turn it into a consistent behavior. The fourth law: make it satisfying. The fourth and final law of behavior change is to make the habit satisfying. If you want a habit to stick, you need to feel good about it right away. This is where the principle of immediate rewards comes into play. Our brains are wired to respond to instant gratification, and we're more likely to repeat an action if we feel satisfied or rewarded immediately after doing it. For example, when you finish a workout, take a moment to acknowledge your progress. It could be as simple as saying, "Great job," or marking a calendar with a check mark. The satisfaction you feel from acknowledging your success reinforces the habit and makes it more likely you'll do it again. In addition to immediate rewards, you can also track your habits using a system like a habit tracker. Seeing your progress, visually, can be incredibly motivating. When you check off each day you complete a habit, you get a small sense of accomplishment. This immediate reward makes you want to keep going, and over time, it helps to turn the habit into something automatic. Another method for making habits satisfying is to celebrate small wins along the way. For example, if your goal is to read 30 minutes a day, celebrate after each reading session. This celebration reinforces the behavior and signals to your brain that it's a positive action, making it more likely you'll repeat it. The more satisfying a habit is in the moment, the more likely it is to stick in the long run. By rewarding yourself, You create positive associations with the behavior, which strengthens the habit loop and ensures that you'll continue to perform the habit in the future. Conclusion. The 4 laws of behavior change: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying, provide a simple and effective framework for building good habits and breaking bad ones. By applying these laws to your own life, you can design habits that are easy to start and hard to break. Remember, the key to lasting change is consistency. The more you focus on making habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, the more likely you are to create the lasting changes you desire. Every habit you build, no matter how small, brings you one step closer to becoming the person you want to be. So let's start putting these laws into practice and see how small changes can lead to massive transformations. Chapter 4. Make it obvious. Building a new habit, or breaking an old one, requires more than just willpower. One of the most powerful strategies you can use to create lasting change is to make your desired habit obvious. When the cues for your habits are visible and clear, you make it easier for your brain to recognize the need for action. In this chapter, we'll dive deep into how to make your habits more obvious, and why this is such an important step in building lasting behavior change. The importance of cues. Every habit starts with a cue. A cue is a trigger that initiates a behavior. It could be something you see, hear, feel, or think. For example, the sound of your alarm in the morning is a cue to wake up. The sight of your gym clothes in the morning might be a cue to exercise. Your environment plays a massive role in these cues. Often, we don't even realize how much our surroundings influence our habits. If you want to create a new habit, or if you want to stop a bad one, the key is to manipulate the cues in your environment. When the cue for a desired habit is clear and easy to spot, you reduce the mental effort required to take action. Habits become automatic when the triggers for those habits are obvious and visible. Environment design. The power of visual cues. The most effective way to make a habit obvious is by designing your environment. When you surround yourself with reminders that prompt you to act, the behavior becomes easier to perform. This is the idea behind environment design, altering your surroundings to make your desired habits easier and more obvious. Let's say you want to eat healthier. Instead of hiding fruits and vegetables in the back of the fridge, place them on the front shelf where they're easy to see and access. If you want to stop mindlessly snacking on junk food, move the chips and candy out of sight or into a cabinet that's harder to reach. The key here is to make healthy options visible and easy to grab while making unhealthy choices less obvious and harder to access. Similarly, if your goal is to exercise more, keep your workout gear where you can see it. Lay out your gym clothes the night before, so they are the first thing you see when you wake up, or place your yoga mat in the middle of the living room as a constant visual reminder to get moving. The more obvious the cue for your desired habit, the more likely you are to take action. The environment doesn't just include physical objects. It can also include the people you surround yourself with. If you want to drink less alcohol, for example, consider avoiding social gatherings where heavy drinking is the norm, or seek out friends who share your goals of sobriety. When the people around you provide the right cues, it's easier to stay aligned with your habits. Habit stacking. Making the cue obvious. One powerful method for making habits more obvious is habit stacking. This involves taking a current habit you already do consistently and linking it to a new habit you want to create. This creates a clear and consistent cue for the new behavior. For example, let's say you want to start practicing gratitude every morning. You already brush your teeth every day without fail. To stack your new habit, you could decide that immediately after brushing your teeth, you'll take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. Brushing your teeth becomes the cue for practicing gratitude. Over time, this small addition will become a consistent part of your routine. The beauty of habit stacking is that you don't have to rely on sheer willpower or motivation to remember your new habit. You simply attach it to something you're already doing, because the original habit, like brushing your teeth or making coffee, is already automatic. It provides a natural reminder to do your new habit. Using visual reminders to trigger habits. Visual reminders are a great way to make a habit obvious. These cues are hard to ignore, and the more visible they are, the more likely you are to act on them. This could mean leaving notes in places where you'll see them, using sticky notes with reminders, or placing objects around your environment that serve as cues. For instance, if you want to read more, put a book on your pillow every morning. Seeing the book when you go to bed will be a reminder to read. Or if you want to drink more water, place a water bottle on your desk or next to your computer. Every time you glance at your desk, the bottle will serve as a reminder to take a sip. In a similar vein, using a visual tracker can help make your habits more obvious. For example, if you're aiming to run every day, hang a calendar on your wall where you can mark off each successful run. When you see the calendar every day, you're reminded of your goal and motivated to add another checkmark. The visual cue reinforces the behavior and keeps you engaged. The power of habit tracking. Tracking your habits is a simple but powerful tool for making your behavior more obvious. When you track your habits, you turn them into something visible. By writing down or marking off your progress each day, you get a visual cue that not only shows how far you've come, but also reminds you of your next step. Habit tracking provides a way to celebrate small wins, and it reinforces the idea that you're making progress. It's motivating to see your streak grow, and it makes your habit much more obvious. You can use an app, a journal, or a simple paper calendar to track your habits, whatever method works best for you. The key is consistency. Each time you mark off a habit, you create a clear visual reminder of your success, which makes it easier to keep going. And when you see your progress, it's a cue that encourages you to continue the behavior. The power of context. When, where, and who. Another way to make a habit obvious is by specifying when, where, and with whom you're going to perform the habit. This reduces the chances of forgetting or procrastinating, because you've made the behavior concrete. For example, instead of saying, "I'll exercise more," say, "I'll go for a 10-minute walk at 7 p.m. every day after dinner." By specifying the time and place, you make the behavior clear and easy to follow through on. The clearer and more specific the cue, the easier it is to act on it. Similarly, the people you're with can act as cues for behavior. If you want to practice mindfulness, for instance, you might decide to meditate with a group at a specific time every week. The group becomes a consistent cue for your practice, making it easier to stay committed. Conclusion. Making your habits obvious is one of the most effective ways to build lasting behavior change. When you design your environment to highlight the cues for your desired habits, and when you use methods like habit stacking, visual reminders, and habit tracking, you make it much easier to take action. The clearer the cue, the less mental energy you'll have to use to get started. The more obvious you make your habits, the more automatic they will become. By focusing on making the cues for your good habits visible and easy to spot, you're laying the foundation for a consistent, lasting change in your life. As you move forward in building your habits, remember that small adjustments in your environment can have a huge impact. When you make the cues for your habits obvious, you increase the chances of success. So start by looking at your environment. What small changes can you make today to trigger the right habits tomorrow? The journey to change begins with making your habits obvious. Chapter 5. Make it attractive. The key to building lasting habits isn't just about making them obvious or easy, it's about making them appealing. If you want to make a habit stick, you need to make it something you actually want to do. This is the fifth law of behavior change. Make it attractive. When a habit feels enjoyable or rewarding, you're much more likely to repeat it. In this chapter, we'll explore how to make your habits more attractive by leveraging the power of motivation, rewards, and positive emotions. The power of motivation. Motivation plays a central role in habit formation. When something feels good or rewarding, we're naturally drawn to it. On the flip side, when something feels unpleasant or tedious, we tend to avoid it. This is where the concept of motivation comes into play. The more attractive a habit is, the more motivated you'll be to perform it consistently. But here's the thing, motivation isn't something you can simply will into existence. It's not always reliable. Some days, you'll feel motivated to work out or eat healthy, and other days, you won't. To overcome this, you need to find ways to make the habit itself more attractive, so that on days when motivation is low, the habit will still feel worthwhile. One simple way to do this is by associating the habit with something you already enjoy. Let's say you want to start exercising, but find it hard to get excited about going to the gym. One way to make it more attractive is to pair your workout with something enjoyable. Listen to your favorite podcast or audiobook while you exercise. This makes the workout feel less like a chore and more like an opportunity to enjoy something you love. The brain will start associating the workout with the positive feeling of listening to something enjoyable, and over time, this will make the habit itself more appealing. Temptation bundling. One of the most effective ways to make a habit attractive is using a technique called temptation bundling. This involves pairing a habit you want to build with something you already enjoy. By combining something pleasurable with something you want to make a habit, you create a powerful incentive to follow through. For example, if you enjoy watching your favorite TV show, but want to start working out, you can use temptation bundling to make exercise more attractive. Only allow yourself to watch the show while you're on the treadmill or doing a workout. This makes the act of exercising more appealing because it's tied to something you look forward to. You're not just forcing yourself to work out, you're creating a situation where the workout becomes the key to unlocking something enjoyable. The key to temptation bundling is making sure that the thing you're bundling with the habit is something you truly enjoy. It could be a favorite song, a specific podcast, or even a type of food or drink that you love. By bundling something fun with the habit you want to build, you'll increase the chances of sticking with it. The role of immediate rewards. One of the reasons habits fail is because they lack immediate rewards. Most of the time, the benefits of a new habit aren't felt immediately. When you start exercising, for instance, you may not notice any changes in your body right away. Similarly, when you begin a new diet or productivity routine, the rewards can seem far off. This delay between effort and reward makes it harder to stay motivated. To make a habit more attractive, it's important to build in some immediate rewards. Even though the long-term benefits are the ultimate goal, the immediate payoff is what will keep you going. Immediate rewards can come in many forms, whether it's the satisfaction of completing a task, the pleasure of crossing something off your to-do list, or even just the feeling of taking a break after a productive session. For example, after a workout, you could reward yourself with something small, like a healthy smoothie or a relaxing shower. If you're trying to build a habit of writing, you might reward yourself with a 10-minute break after completing your daily word count goal. These small rewards create positive reinforcement, which makes the habit feel more satisfying and worth repeating. The more immediate and enjoyable the reward, the more likely it is that you'll continue performing the habit. Immediate rewards build positive associations, and over time, the habit becomes more attractive. Making habits enjoyable. Another way to make a habit more attractive is by focusing on how enjoyable it can be. Often we avoid habits because we associate them with negative emotions, like boredom or discomfort. To make a habit more attractive, it's important to find ways to enjoy the process, not just the outcome. Take exercise, for example. Many people think of working out as something unpleasant, an activity that requires effort and dedication, often with minimal immediate rewards. But you can reframe your perspective by focusing on the enjoyment factor. Find a form of exercise that you enjoy, whether it's dancing, hiking, cycling, or swimming. The more fun the activity is, the more likely you are to stick with it. The same applies to other habits. If you want to eat healthier, experiment with new recipes that excite you. Instead of seeing healthy eating as a restriction, make it an opportunity to try new foods and explore different cuisines. The more you enjoy the process, the more motivated you'll be to continue. Social influence. Making habits attractive by sharing them. Humans are social creatures, and our behaviors are often influenced by the people around us. If you want to make a habit more attractive, consider sharing it with others. Social influence can make a behavior feel more rewarding and engaging. For example, If you want to build a reading habit, join a book club. The social aspect of discussing books with others will make the experience more enjoyable and make you more likely to stick with the habit. If you want to work out more consistently, find a workout buddy or join a fitness group. The sense of community and accountability can make the habit more attractive and provide additional motivation to keep going. In the same way, the people you surround yourself with can influence your behavior. If your friends and family have similar goals and values, it will make it easier for you to stay motivated and engaged with your habits. By choosing to be around people who support and encourage your goals, you can make your habits more enjoyable and sustainable. The role of identity in making habits attractive. Finally, one of the most powerful ways to make a habit attractive is by linking it to your identity. When a habit becomes a part of who you are, rather than something you simply do, it becomes much easier to sustain. For instance, if you want to eat healthier, focus on becoming the kind of person who values health and well-being. Instead of thinking, "I want to eat healthier," think, "I am someone who makes health-conscious choices." When you identify with a habit, it becomes more appealing, because it aligns with your sense of self. Similarly, if you want to be more productive, consider yourself the type of person who gets things done efficiently. When you tie your habits to a positive identity, the behavior itself becomes attractive, because it reinforces who you are and what you stand for. Conclusion: making your habits attractive is one of the most powerful strategies for lasting behavior change. By associating a habit with something you enjoy, using temptation bundling, offering yourself immediate rewards, and focusing on enjoyment, you can create a powerful motivation loop that makes your habits more appealing. Moreover, by sharing your habits with others and connecting them to your identity, you increase your chances of success. The more attractive a habit is, the more likely you are to stick with it, and the more natural it will feel to make it part of your daily routine. As you work toward building your habits, remember that it's not just about making them easy or obvious, it's about making them something you want to do. When a habit feels enjoyable and rewarding, it becomes much easier to make it a lasting part of your life. So take a moment today to think about how you can make your habits more attractive and begin building the life you desire. Chapter 6. Make it easy. One of the most common reasons people fail to build new habits is that they make them harder than they need to be. They set lofty goals, create unrealistic expectations, and make the process more complicated than it should be. But the secret to making a habit stick isn't in forcing yourself to work harder. It's in making the habit as easy as possible to do. In this chapter, we'll dive into how to make your habits easy to perform, how to reduce friction, and how to simplify your routines so that sticking to them becomes automatic. By making things easier, you're more likely to follow through on your habits, and over time, they will become second nature. The importance of reducing friction. Friction refers to anything that makes it harder for you to start a habit. It's the small barriers that get in your way, the little things that cause you to hesitate before taking action. The more friction there is between you and the desired behavior, the less likely you are to follow through. For example, if you want to start exercising in the morning, but your gym is far from your house, you may be less likely to go. Or if your healthy snacks are hidden in the back of the pantry, it takes extra effort to get them. This friction makes the behavior less appealing, which makes it harder to stick with. To make habits easier, you need to reduce friction as much as possible. This means removing unnecessary obstacles and making the behavior as simple and straightforward as possible. The less effort it takes to start a habit, the more likely it is that you'll follow through. The 2-minute rule. One of the best ways to make habits easy is to apply the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule is simple. Make your habits so easy that they only take 2 minutes to start. This is a great way to break down a new habit into something small and manageable. Once you start, it's much easier to keep going. For example, instead of committing to an hour-long workout, start by committing to just 2 minutes of exercise. This could be as simple as doing a couple of stretches or walking around the block. By making the action so small, it becomes easy to get started. Once you're 2 minutes in, you might feel motivated to keep going, and before you know it, the habit will become part of your routine. The 2-minute rule is about overcoming the initial resistance. The hardest part of any habit is often just getting started. By breaking down a habit into a tiny action, you make it so easy that there's no excuse not to begin. Mastering the art of consistency. The goal isn't to do a massive amount of work right away. It's to create the habit of consistency. Small actions, repeated every day, will eventually lead to big results. The key to mastering any habit is doing it consistently, not perfectly. The idea here is that once a habit becomes easy to do, it's more likely that you'll stick with it over time. Instead of focusing on making the habit perfect, focus on making it consistent. Even if you do it for just a few minutes every day, that consistency will pay off. For example, if you want to write more, but feel overwhelmed by the thought of writing an entire book, start by writing for just 5 minutes a day. Over time, that 5-minute session will become a part of your daily routine, and it will lead to more writing without the pressure of having to produce long sections all at once. Eventually, you'll find that writing for 5 minutes turns into 30 minutes, or even an hour, simply because the habit became so easy to do consistently. Automating habits. Another way to make habits easy is by automating them. Automation reduces the need for willpower, which makes habits effortless. One of the most powerful tools for automation is technology. There are countless apps and tools available that can help you track your habits and remind you to take action. For example, if you want to drink more water, you can set up an app that sends you a reminder every few hours to take a sip. If you want to save money, use an app to automatically transfer a small amount of money into your savings account each week. The more you can automate, the less mental energy you'll need to invest in the habit, and the easier it will be to make. Another form of automation is scheduling. If you're trying to develop a new habit, such as going to bed earlier, try scheduling it into your day. Set a reminder, or create a calendar event that automatically pops up to signal when it's time for bed. By automating your habits, you eliminate the need to make decisions, and the habit becomes just another part of your daily routine. Use the downhill approach. When it comes to building habits, there's a concept called the downhill approach. This is the idea that habits should flow smoothly and effortlessly, like rolling a ball downhill. The easier you make a habit, the more likely it is to become automatic. The downhill approach means reducing the effort required to perform a habit. For example, if you want to exercise in the morning, but hate getting out of bed, try placing your workout clothes next to your bed the night before. When you wake up, all you need to do is get dressed, and you're halfway to starting your workout. By eliminating the steps that require effort, you make it easy to keep the ball rolling and maintain the habit. Similarly, if you want to eat healthier, prepare your meals in advance, chop vegetables, or pre-make salads, so that when it's time to eat, everything is ready to go. This eliminates the friction that comes from having to cook or prep food in the moment, making it easier to stick to your healthy eating plan. Environment design. Set yourself up for success. Your environment has a huge impact on how easy it is to maintain a habit. By designing your environment to make your desired habits easier, you'll be able to effortlessly slip into the behavior you want to build. For instance, if you want to read more, place books around your house, on your nightstand, in the living room, or even in your car. The more accessible the books are, the more likely you are to pick them up and start reading. Similarly, if you want to spend less time on your phone, make sure that apps you tend to waste time on are harder to access, or use an app that limits your screen time. The more you design your environment to make your habits easy, the less effort you'll have to put into sticking with them. You won't need to rely on willpower or motivation to follow through. Instead, your surroundings will help you maintain consistency. The power of habit loops. Habits are formed through loops. A cue triggers the habit, which leads to a reward. The more automatic the habit loop becomes, the easier it is to follow through on the behavior. To make habits easier, you need to create loops that reinforce the desired behavior. For example, if you want to start meditating, you could create a habit loop by pairing meditation with another action that's already part of your routine. Perhaps you meditate for 5 minutes right after brushing your teeth in the morning. The cue of brushing your teeth will automatically trigger the habit of meditation, and you'll start experiencing the reward of a calmer mind. Over time, this loop becomes effortless, and the habit sticks. Conclusion: the easiest way to build a lasting habit is to make it easy to do, by reducing friction, using the 2-minute rule, automating your habits, and designing your environment for success. You can make your habits effortless. The more you simplify the process, the more automatic the behavior becomes, and the easier it is to maintain consistency. Remember, the goal isn't to make things perfect, or to push yourself to your limits every day. It's about making your habits so easy to start that they become automatic. When a habit feels effortless, you're more likely to stick with it, and that's the key to building lasting change. Chapter 7. Make it satisfying. One of the biggest reasons habits fail is that they don't feel rewarding enough. We may start a habit with excitement and motivation, but over time, if we don't see any immediate benefit or gratification, it becomes harder to stay consistent. The final law of behavior change, make it satisfying, is about creating positive emotions that reinforce the habit. When we feel good about what we're doing, we're much more likely to stick with it. In this chapter, we'll explore how to make your habits satisfying and why this is crucial for long-term success. By adding an element of satisfaction to your habits, you can strengthen your behavior loops, make the habits more enjoyable, and ensure that you continue performing them consistently over time. The role of immediate rewards. Many habits fail because the rewards don't come soon enough. When you start a new habit, the benefits are often delayed. For example, exercising regularly might not lead to visible changes in your body right away, or eating healthy may not immediately result in weight loss. But the human brain is wired to seek instant rewards. We love the feeling of immediate gratification, and if we don't feel rewarded for our efforts, it's easy to give up. To make a habit stick, you need to create some form of immediate satisfaction that you can feel right away. These immediate rewards provide positive reinforcement, which makes the habit more enjoyable and more likely to be repeated. Let's take the example of working out. The benefits of exercise, such as improved health or better fitness, may take weeks or months to notice. But if you reward yourself immediately after each workout with something you enjoy, like a nice shower, a healthy smoothie, or even a few minutes of relaxation, you'll create a sense of satisfaction that makes you want to keep exercising. The power of sealing the deal with small rewards. When we complete a task, it's important to feel like we've finished it successfully. Small rewards, like checking off an item on your to-do list, or giving yourself a treat after a productive day, help to seal the deal and reinforce the behavior. For example, if you want to create the habit of journaling every night, you could reward yourself with a special moment after each entry. Maybe you take a few minutes to reflect on the positive aspects of your day, or enjoy a cup of tea while reading. These small acts of reward make the habit more satisfying and tie a sense of pleasure to it, which makes it easier to repeat. A closing ritual can also be helpful. When you finish a task, take a moment to acknowledge the accomplishment. This could be as simple as saying to yourself, "Great job," or giving yourself a mental high five. This recognition of effort and success reinforces the habit and makes you feel good about following through, which makes you want to do it again. Tracking your progress to create satisfaction. Tracking your progress is another way to make a habit satisfying. When you can visually see how far you've come, it creates a sense of accomplishment and motivates you to keep going. For example, if you're trying to save money, track every deposit you make into your savings account. The simple act of marking each contribution on a chart or in an app gives you immediate feedback and rewards your effort. You can see your progress and feel satisfied with the small steps you're taking toward your larger goal. Similarly, if your goal is to run every day, you could track your runs using a fitness app or a calendar where you mark off each day you complete a workout. When you see a streak of check marks or digital badges, it creates a sense of accomplishment, making the habit feel more satisfying and motivating you to keep going. The act of tracking not only provides immediate rewards, but also helps you stay accountable. It makes the habit more rewarding because you can see how much progress you've made. Make the habit socially satisfying. Another powerful way to make a habit satisfying is to make it social. Humans are inherently social creatures, and we often find satisfaction in sharing experiences with others. When you have people around you who support your habits, or when you share your successes with others, it reinforces the habit and gives you a sense of satisfaction. For example, if you want to get into the habit of working out, joining a fitness group, or working out with a friend, can make the experience more enjoyable and rewarding. Not only do you get the satisfaction of socializing and having a good time, but you also create a sense of accountability. The praise, encouragement, and camaraderie can make the habit feel more satisfying and make you more likely to stick with it. The social satisfaction can also come from sharing your progress with others. Whether it's telling a friend about your healthy meals, posting your workout results on social media, or joining a community of like-minded people working towards similar goals, sharing your journey creates positive feedback and strengthens your commitment to the habit. Using the don't break the chain strategy. The don't break the chain strategy is another method for making habits satisfying. This technique was popularized by comedian Jerry Seinfeld, who famously used it to stay consistent with writing jokes every day. The idea is simple: get a calendar and mark off every day you complete your habit. Each day you stick with it, you build a chain of X's or check marks. The longer the chain gets, the more satisfying it becomes to keep it going. The satisfaction of seeing your chain grow gives you the motivation to continue. It also creates a visual reminder of your progress, which reinforces the habit. The idea of not wanting to break the chain gives you an extra boost of satisfaction and encourages you to stay consistent. It taps into the psychology of loss aversion. The fear of losing the streak can be a powerful motivator. Celebrate small wins to boost satisfaction. Celebrating small wins is key to making your habits satisfying. The more often you recognize and celebrate your progress, the more motivated you'll feel to continue. Every small success is an opportunity to feel good about your efforts, which boosts your sense of satisfaction and reinforces the habit. For example, if your goal is to read more books, you could celebrate after each chapter or after each book you complete. This doesn't have to be a big celebration. It could simply be taking a moment to acknowledge that you've made progress toward your goal. When you take the time to savor the small wins, you boost your motivation and make the habit more rewarding. The power of habit reflection. Reflection is another way to make habits satisfying. When you take time to reflect on your progress and how far you've come, it increases your sense of accomplishment. This reflection helps you appreciate the effort you've put into building the habit and reinforces the positive feelings associated with it. For example, at the end of each week, you might take a few minutes to review your habit tracking chart and reflect on the progress you've made. Celebrate what went well and learn from any setbacks. This reflection not only makes the process more satisfying, but also helps you stay motivated to continue. Conclusion. Making your habits satisfying is the key to making them stick. When you feel good about your habits and experience immediate rewards, you're much more likely to stay consistent. By incorporating small rewards, tracking your progress, celebrating your wins, and making your habits social and reflective, you create a cycle of satisfaction that reinforces your behavior and keeps you motivated. Remember, the more satisfying a habit is, the more likely it is to become a permanent part of your life. So, as you work on building new habits, focus on making them rewarding. The more enjoyment and satisfaction you derive from your habits, the more natural they will become, and the more likely you'll be to keep doing them for the long term. Chapter 8. How to break bad habits. Bad habits, like smoking, overeating, or procrastinating, can feel like they're built into our daily routines. They're automatic, persistent, and often harder to break than we think. The key to breaking bad habits isn't about simply trying to force yourself to quit. It's about understanding how these habits work, and then using the same principles that help build good habits to make the bad ones harder to perform. In this chapter, we'll explore how to break bad habits by applying the inverse of the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. The first law, make it invisible. The first law of breaking bad habits is to make the cues for those habits invisible. Just as you can make good habits more obvious by designing your environment to trigger the behavior, you can make bad habits harder to start by removing or hiding the cues that lead to those habits. For example, if you want to stop snacking on unhealthy foods, one of the first steps is to remove them from your home. If junk food is out of sight, it becomes much harder to mindlessly reach for it. Similarly, if you're trying to stop watching too much TV, unplug your television, or remove it from your living room, the less you're exposed to cues that trigger your bad habits, the less likely you are to perform those habits. It's not just about removing physical cues, it's also about managing your environment mentally. If you tend to procrastinate when you see social media notifications, consider turning off notifications or using apps that block distracting sites. The less frequently you're exposed to cues that tempt you to engage in a bad habit, the easier it will be to break it. The second law, make it unattractive. The second law for breaking bad habits is to make them unattractive. If you want to stop a bad habit, you need to change the way you think about it. In order to break free from a negative behavior, you must see it in a different light, one that helps you feel repulsed rather than drawn to it. To do this, you can practice a technique called reframing. Reframing is the process of changing your perception of a habit by focusing on its negative aspects rather than its temporary rewards. For example, if you're trying to stop smoking, instead of thinking about how relaxing or enjoyable a cigarette might seem, focus on the long-term health consequences, the cost of the cigarettes, and the unpleasant smell. By changing your mindset to associate the habit with its negative aspects, you can make it feel less appealing. Another method is to highlight the benefits of not engaging in the bad habit. For example, if you want to stop binge-watching TV shows, remind yourself of the benefits of spending your time more productively, such as working on personal projects, or spending quality time with friends and family. The more you focus on the positive aspects of breaking the bad habit, the more unattractive it will seem in comparison. The third law, make it difficult. The third law for breaking bad habits is to make them difficult to perform. If you want to stop a bad habit, you need to introduce obstacles that increase the friction between you and the habit, making it harder to do. Just as you can make good habits easier by reducing friction, you can make bad habits more difficult by introducing barriers that discourage them. For example, if you want to stop procrastinating on your work, you might make it harder to access distractions like social media. You could install an app on your phone that blocks distracting websites, or remove your phone from your work environment entirely. By increasing the effort it takes to engage in the bad habit, you make it less likely that you'll follow through with it. Another strategy is to make the habit require more time or energy than it's worth. For example, if you want to stop eating junk food, don't keep unhealthy snacks readily available. Instead, store them in a place that's harder to access, or only buy them in bulk, so you'll have to go out of your way to purchase them. This increases the friction between you and the habit, making it harder for you to give in to temptation. Making bad habits difficult requires you to think ahead and set up obstacles that force you to think twice before giving in. The harder it is to engage in a bad habit, the more likely you are to abandon it. The fourth law, make it unsatisfying. The final law for breaking bad habits is to make them unsatisfying. If you want to stop doing something, you need to associate the behavior with unpleasant outcomes. One of the most effective ways to do this is through negative reinforcement, or creating consequences for your bad behavior that you'll want to avoid. For example, if you're trying to stop spending too much money on unnecessary items, set up a system where every time you make an impulse purchase, you donate a set amount of money to a cause you don't support or a charity you dislike. This makes the habit of spending money unsatisfying, because you're associating it with a consequence you find unpleasant. Over time, the negative reinforcement will make you want to avoid engaging in the bad habit. Another technique is to make the habit itself more uncomfortable. For example, if you're trying to stop smoking, each time you feel the urge to smoke, immediately do something that requires physical exertion, like jumping jacks or a quick walk. The discomfort of the physical activity will make the act of smoking feel less rewarding, and you'll begin to associate smoking with unpleasant feelings. You can also use accountability to make a bad habit unsatisfying. Tell a friend or family member about your goal to break the habit, and make an agreement that they will hold you accountable. If you slip up, you might have to face a small but uncomfortable consequence, like paying a fine or performing an embarrassing task. The fear of these consequences will make the bad habit less attractive and increase the likelihood that you'll stick to your goal. How to use the habit reversal technique. One powerful method for breaking bad habits is the habit reversal technique. This involves identifying the triggers for your bad habit and replacing them with healthier, more constructive behaviors. For example, if you habitually bite your nails when you're stressed, the trigger is the feeling of stress. Instead of biting your nails, you could replace this with a different behavior, like squeezing a stress ball or taking deep breaths. The idea is to find a positive action that can replace the bad habit while still fulfilling the same need. Over time, the new behavior will begin to replace the old one, and the bad habit will fade away. Conclusion. Breaking bad habits isn't easy, but it's definitely possible with the right approach. By applying the 4 laws of behavior change in reverse, making the cues invisible, making the behavior unattractive, making it difficult to perform, and making it unsatisfying, you can make your bad habits harder to continue and increase the likelihood that you'll stick with positive changes. The key is to recognize that breaking a bad habit isn't about relying on willpower alone, it's about changing the environment, mindset, and systems that support the habit so that it becomes easier to replace it with something better. It takes time and effort, but with patience and persistence, you can break free from bad habits and build the life you want. So start by identifying the habits you want to break, and begin applying these strategies to make those habits less appealing, less accessible, and less satisfying. Chapter 10. The Role of Identity in Habit Formation. When you think about habits, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For many people, habits are often seen as actions that we take to reach specific goals. You might think of building habits like working out to lose weight, eating healthier to feel better, or reading to become smarter. While these are all valid reasons for developing new habits, there's a deeper and more powerful way to approach habit formation by focusing on your identity. In this chapter, we'll explore how your identity plays a crucial role in the habits you form, how to shift your mindset to become the type of person who naturally embodies the habits you want to create, and how focusing on identity can make habit change more sustainable and powerful in the long run. The power of identity-based habits. Most people think of habits as something you do, a goal you achieve, or a task you complete. But what if instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, you focused on who you want to become? This shift in thinking is the core of identity-based habits. Identity-based habits start with the question, who do you want to be? Instead of saying, I want to run a marathon, the focus becomes, I want to be the type of person who runs regularly. Rather than aiming for the outcome, the focus shifts to building the identity of someone who naturally engages in the habit. The beauty of identity-based habits is that they build on your self-image. When you see yourself as a runner, for example, the behavior becomes easier to follow through on. Running isn't something you have to force yourself to do. It's just what runners do. Similarly, if you identify as a healthy eater, making nutritious food choices becomes automatic. By aligning your habits with your identity, you shift the focus from the outcome, losing weight, getting fit, to the process, becoming a healthy person. This approach makes it easier to stay consistent, because it's not about achieving a goal, it's about reinforcing the type of person you are. The 2 layers of behavior change. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, introduces the concept of 2 layers of behavior change: outcomes and identity. These layers are connected, but the difference lies in the depth of the change. Outcomes-based change. This is the most common approach. It focuses on results, like losing weight, writing a book, or getting stronger. When you base your habit change on outcomes, you're motivated by the external reward. And when the reward isn't immediately visible, it can be hard to stay on track. For example, you might start exercising to lose weight. But once the weight loss slows down, your motivation can drop because the external result feels distant or out of reach. Identity-based change. This layer goes deeper. Instead of focusing on the results, it's about focusing on the type of person you want to become. When you start acting in ways that align with your desired identity, the actions become a part of who you are, making them much easier to maintain. For example, instead of saying "I want to lose weight," you shift to thinking, "I am a person who takes care of my body and makes healthy choices." This shifts the focus from the goal to the person, making it easier to stay consistent. By focusing on who you want to become, you begin to act in alignment with that identity, and over time, the new behavior becomes automatic. How to build identity-based habits. Building identity-based habits doesn't require major changes overnight. It's a gradual process of aligning your actions with the person you want to become. Here are some strategies to help you make that shift. Start small. The key to building identity-based habits is starting with small, manageable actions. As you repeat these actions consistently, they reinforce the identity you want to develop. For example, if you want to become a runner, start by committing to running just once a week. Each time you follow through on that commitment, you reinforce your identity as a runner. Use the "I am" statement. A powerful way to affirm your new identity is to use "I am" statements. For example, if you want to be more productive, say to yourself, "I am someone who gets things done." If you want to eat healthier, say, "I am a healthy eater." These affirmations help to reinforce the new identity, making it easier to stick to the behaviors associated with that identity. Focus on the process, not the outcome. It's tempting to focus on the outcome, losing weight, getting a promotion, or hitting a certain number of followers on social media. But by focusing on the process, you focus on the habits that lead to the result. For instance, instead of obsessing over the scale, focus on the small, consistent actions you're taking to eat better and exercise. Over time, those small actions will build the identity of someone who naturally makes healthy choices, and the outcomes will follow. Reinforce the identity with small wins. Every time you perform the behavior, take a moment to acknowledge it. Recognize that you're acting in alignment with your new identity. If you worked out, celebrate that you are becoming a fit person. If you ate a healthy meal, recognize that you are a healthy eater. Reinforcing these small wins helps you internalize your identity and strengthens the habit. Don't break the chain. Use the "don't break the chain" strategy to stay consistent. Create a visual reminder of your progress, whether that's marking off each day on a calendar or tracking it on an app. This not only gives you motivation, but reinforces the identity you're building. The longer the streak, the more connected you'll feel to that identity. Identity-based habits versus goal-based habits. It's important to understand that identity-based habits and goal-based habits are not mutually exclusive. You can have both. The key is to recognize that goals are temporary. They are milestones or markers along the way. But identity is permanent. It's who you are at your core. For example, a goal might be to run a marathon, but your identity is that of a runner. The goal is important, but your identity is what keeps you going even after you achieve that goal. Once you've run the marathon, you don't stop being a runner. You continue because running is now part of who you are. This is why identity-based habits are more sustainable in the long term. Goals give you something to work toward, but identity gives you a reason to continue beyond the goal. How identity affects long-term success. When you tie your habits to your identity, you create lasting change. It's not about achieving a one-time goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who continues to engage in the behaviors that lead to success. For example, someone who identifies as a health-conscious person doesn't just eat healthy to lose weight or look good. They make healthy choices because that is who they are. Similarly, someone who identifies as a writer doesn't write only when they feel motivated. They write consistently because writing is part of their identity. The key to long-term success is to stop seeing habits as things you have to do and start seeing them as part of who you are. This shift in mindset makes it easier to stay motivated, consistent, and focused on the process, rather than the outcome. Conclusion. Your identity is one of the most powerful forces that shape your habits. When you focus on becoming the type of person who performs the behaviors you want to cultivate, those behaviors become part of who you are. This identity-based approach makes it easier to stay consistent, motivated, and connected to the process, leading to long-term success. So the next time you want to build a new habit, ask yourself, who do I want to become? And then take small steps to align your actions with that identity. As you consistently show up as the person you want to be, your habits will transform, and with them, your life. Chapter 11. Habit Stacking. The Power of Pairing. Building a new habit is hard. It requires consistency, willpower, and time. But what if there was a way to make the process easier and more automatic? What if you could tap into your existing routines and use them to trigger the new habits you want to create? This is where habit stacking comes in. In this chapter, we'll explore the concept of habit stacking, a simple but powerful technique that helps you build new habits by pairing them with existing ones. By using the habits you already do every day as cues for new behavior, you can create a seamless routine that doesn't feel like an added burden. Habit stacking is an incredibly effective tool for habit formation, and once you understand how to apply it, you'll see how easy it can be to develop lasting change. What is habit stacking? Habit stacking is the process of taking an existing habit that is already ingrained in your daily routine and pairing it with a new habit you want to establish. The key idea is to use the anchor of your established habit as a trigger for the new behavior. Since the original habit is something you already do automatically, it becomes a natural cue for the new habit. For example, let's say you already have a morning routine where you make a cup of coffee every day. If you want to start practicing gratitude, you could stack the new habit onto your existing habit by saying to yourself, after I make my coffee, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for. The act of making coffee becomes the prompt or cue for the new behavior of writing your gratitude list. Habit stacking works because it takes advantage of the brain's habit loops. Once you establish a solid habit stack, the new behavior becomes tied to an action you already perform regularly, making it easier to remember and stick to the new habit. How to create your own habit stack. Creating your own habit stack is simple. All you need to do is find an existing habit in your routine and pair it with a new action you want to perform. The key to success is finding habits that flow naturally together. Here's how to create your own habit stack. Identify an existing habit. Look for habits you already do without much thought. These could be part of your morning routine, daily work habits, or anything that's part of your regular schedule. Common examples include brushing your teeth, having breakfast, checking your phone, or getting home from work. Choose a new habit you want to build. Think about a behavior you'd like to incorporate into your life. This could be anything from drinking more water, stretching, reading, or practicing mindfulness. Create a simple pairing. The new habit should be simple and easy to do right after the existing habit. For example, if you already take a shower every morning, you could stack the habit of doing 10 minutes of deep breathing right after you finish showering. Be specific. Be clear and specific about what the new habit is and when it will occur. Instead of saying, I'll stretch more, say, after I finish brushing my teeth, I will stretch for 5 minutes. The more specific you are, the clearer the trigger becomes. Start small, keep the new habit small and achievable. Start with something that's easy to do in a short amount of time, like drinking a glass of water, doing 5 minutes of reading, or taking 10 deep breaths. Why habit stacking works? Habit stacking works because it leverages the existing structure of your day and helps you use automatic behaviors to trigger new ones. It eliminates the need for excessive motivation or willpower because you're not relying on forcing yourself to remember to do something new. Instead, you're making the new habit part of a routine that already exists. Here's why habit stacking is so effective. It reduces decision fatigue. Every time you have to make a decision, it uses up mental energy. Habit stacking reduces decision fatigue by making the new habit automatic. Because the new behavior is tied to something you already do, you don't have to waste time or effort deciding whether or not to do it. It makes new habits easy to remember. The existing habit serves as a built-in cue. This means you don't need to rely on reminders or motivation to remember to do the new behavior. It's just part of your existing routine. It creates immediate feedback. The new habit happens right after the existing one, so you get immediate feedback. If you've stacked a habit of stretching after brushing your teeth, you'll feel the benefits of stretching right away. This immediate feedback reinforces the new behavior, making it easier to stick with. It builds consistency. When the new habit is tied to something consistent, like brushing your teeth or having breakfast, it's much easier to repeat the behavior regularly. This consistency helps turn the new habit into an automatic part of your routine. Examples of habit stacking. To help you get started, here are some examples of habit stacks that can help you implement new habits easily. Morning routine stacks. After I wake up, I will make my bed, help set a productive tone for the day. After I brush my teeth, I will drink a glass of water, hydrates you first thing in the morning. After I make my coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes, a calming start to the day. Work or study routine stacks. After I sit down at my desk, I will open my to-do list and prioritize my tasks, helps you get organized. After I check my email, I will focus on my most important task for 25 minutes, builds focus and productivity. After I finish a task, I will take a 5-minute break to stretch, promotes productivity and self-care. Health and wellness stacks. After I eat lunch, I will take a 10-minute walk, helps digestion and improves energy. After I exercise, I will drink a protein shake or eat a healthy snack, supports recovery. After I finish my workout, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for, reinforces a positive mindset. Evening routine stacks. After I finish dinner, I will clean the kitchen, creates a sense of accomplishment and tidiness. After I take my evening shower, I will read for 10 minutes, promotes relaxation and helps with winding down. After I set my alarm, I will write down my goals for the next day, sets you up for success the next morning. Troubleshooting habit stacking. If you're finding it difficult to stick to a habit stack, here are a few troubleshooting tips to help you make it work. Keep the new habit simple. If the new habit is too complicated or time-consuming, it can disrupt your existing routine. Start small and build up gradually. Start with the most consistent habit. Make sure the habit you're pairing with is something you do consistently and without much thought. If your anchor habit is unreliable, it will be harder to stick with the new behavior. Be flexible. If you miss a day, don't give up. Habit stacking is about building consistency over time, not perfection. If you miss a habit, just pick up again the next day, without feeling guilty. Track your progress. Keep a visual tracker of your habit stack to stay motivated. Use a habit tracker app, or mark off the days on a calendar to give yourself a visual reminder of your success. Conclusion. Habit stacking is a simple but powerful tool for building lasting habits. By pairing a new habit with an existing one, you create a natural and seamless routine that makes it easier to follow through. The key is to start small, be specific, and focus on consistency. Over time, as you build more habit stacks, you'll find that the behaviors you want to incorporate into your life become automatic and effortless. So start by identifying a habit you already do regularly, and pair it with a new behavior you want to build. The more you stack, the more your new habits will feel like second nature. Chapter 12. The Plateau of Latent Potential. Have you ever started a new habit with high hopes, only to feel frustrated when you don't see immediate results? It's easy to get discouraged when progress doesn't seem visible, especially after putting in consistent effort. This feeling of stagnation is a natural part of the process, but it's also where true growth often happens, under the surface. In this chapter, we'll explore the concept of the plateau of latent potential, a phase where you're working hard, but the results don't seem to show up right away. We'll break down why this phase occurs, how to stay motivated through it, and how to recognize the hidden progress you're making. Understanding the plateau of latent potential is crucial for sustaining long-term growth, and by the end of this chapter, you'll have a new perspective on how to push through this challenging phase with confidence and perseverance. What is the plateau of latent potential? The plateau of latent potential refers to the period of time when you're putting in consistent effort toward a goal, but the results don't seem to match the effort. You may feel like you're stuck, or that you're not making any progress, even though you've been working hard. This phenomenon often happens early on in habit formation, particularly with long-term goals like losing weight, building muscle, or learning a new skill. At this stage, the growth or change you desire is happening under the surface, out of sight. You're laying the groundwork, making incremental changes, and strengthening your foundation, but those changes aren't immediately visible to you or others. The results you see later on are often the result of months or years of consistent invisible progress. To understand this better, think of an iceberg. When you first start a habit, you may only see a small portion of it above the water, but the larger part, hidden beneath the surface, is slowly building. It's easy to be discouraged by the small visible progress, but with time the effects of your hard work will start to rise above the surface. Why does the plateau of latent potential happen? The plateau of latent potential happens because real growth often requires time and consistent effort before the results become obvious. The laws of compounding behavior and change apply here. Small, consistent actions, like drinking a glass of water every day, running a mile each morning, or writing for 10 minutes, don't immediately lead to dramatic changes, but those actions accumulate over time. The problem is that we tend to expect instant results. Our brains are wired to seek quick feedback and rewards, which is why it's easy to get discouraged when progress is slow. This impatience creates the illusion that we're not moving forward, even though the changes are happening beneath the surface. This stage is where most people quit. When they don't see the immediate benefits of their actions, they assume their efforts aren't working. But in reality, it's simply a matter of waiting long enough for the compound effect to kick in. Examples of the plateau of latent potential. Let's look at a few examples to illustrate this concept. Fitness goals. When someone first starts a fitness routine, they may not notice much physical change in the first few weeks. Their body may feel the same, or they may even feel discouraged that they don't see visible results. However, if they keep going, eventually their body adapts to the workouts, and the changes become noticeable. At first, their body was adjusting at a microscopic level, and only after consistent effort did the physical results become visible. Learning a new skill. Think about learning a new language. Initially, progress may feel slow, and it might be difficult to see any noticeable improvement. You may not be able to speak fluently, or memorize words as easily as you want. But after months of steady practice, you'll find that you can converse more comfortably, understand more words, and recall information faster. In the beginning, your brain was working to build connections that weren't obvious to you, but as time goes on, the skill becomes second nature. Building a business. Entrepreneurs often experience this plateau when starting a new business. They may work tirelessly on marketing, product development, or customer outreach, but the results are slow to come. Sales remain stagnant, and they may question whether their effort is worth it. But after months or years of hard work, the business starts to grow exponentially, reaching new customers, and hitting revenue milestones that seemed impossible at the beginning. The early work sets the foundation for massive growth in the long run. In all of these examples, the plateau of latent potential was a phase where progress was hidden from view, but essential for creating the conditions for future success. How to stay motivated through the plateau. The plateau of latent potential is one of the most difficult phases of habit formation, but it's also one of the most important. Here are some strategies to stay motivated and push through the plateau. Track your progress. It's easy to get discouraged if you don't feel like you're making progress, so tracking your efforts can help you see that progress is happening, even if it's slow. For example, if you're trying to read more, track the number of pages you read each day. Even if it feels slow, the act of tracking helps you see that you're moving forward. Over time, that slow progress adds up to something significant. Celebrate small wins. During the plateau, it's crucial to celebrate the small wins along the way. These might not be dramatic results, but recognizing even the smallest achievements helps you stay motivated. If you're trying to eat healthier, celebrate the fact that you've chosen nutritious food for 3 days in a row. Small wins reinforce the habit and give you the positive feedback you need to keep going. Trust the process. One of the most important things to do during this phase is to trust the process. Understand that growth is happening, even if you can't see it right away. Every effort you put in is contributing to the bigger picture. Trust that if you keep going, eventually you will see the results. The plateau of latent potential is where you're building the foundation that will support future success. Be patient. Patience is key. The results you're looking for may not happen overnight, but that doesn't mean they aren't coming. It's important to remind yourself that lasting change takes time. The plateau is a temporary phase, and eventually, you will break through it. Stay consistent, and remember that the work you're doing now is laying the groundwork for future growth. Recognizing when you're near the breakthrough. One of the most challenging parts of the plateau of latent potential is not knowing when you'll break through. You might feel like you're stuck, and you may even feel tempted to quit because you're not seeing the progress you expect. But often, this is the time when breakthroughs happen. Here are a few signs that you're nearing a breakthrough. Consistency feels easier. Once you've been sticking with the habit for a while, it starts to feel more natural. You don't have to work as hard to make the habit a part of your routine, and it starts to feel automatic. You begin to see early results. The first signs of real progress may feel small, but they can be the first indicators that the work you've been putting in is paying off. You're more confident. As you begin to see improvements, no matter how small, your confidence grows. This boosts your motivation and makes it easier to keep going. The key is to keep going when the results aren't visible. The breakthrough often happens just when you feel like giving up. Stay committed to the process, and trust that your hard work will eventually lead to the success you're aiming for. Conclusion. The plateau of latent potential is an essential part of habit formation and growth. It's the phase where change happens beneath the surface, and although it may feel frustrating at times, it's where true transformation occurs. Understanding that this plateau is temporary, and that progress is often hidden, can help you push through difficult moments and stay committed to your goals. As you work through the plateau of latent potential, remember that consistency is key. Track your progress, celebrate small wins, and trust the process. Growth may take time, but with patience and perseverance, you will eventually break through and achieve the results you've been working toward. So the next time you feel like you're stuck, remember that the breakthrough is likely just around the corner. Keep going, and success will follow. Chapter 13. How to review and improve your habits. Building good habits is a continuous journey, not a destination. As you work toward improving your life, it's important to regularly review your habits and assess whether they are helping you move closer to your goals or holding you back. The process of reviewing your habits allows you to make adjustments, eliminate unhelpful behaviors, and double down on the ones that are working. In this chapter, we will explore why habit reviews are essential, how to effectively evaluate your habits, and how to improve them over time. By the end, you'll have a clear roadmap for ensuring your habits stay aligned with your goals and continue to help you grow. The importance of habit reviews. Many people think of habit formation as a one-time event. You set a goal, you work toward it, and eventually, you've created a new habit. However, lasting change doesn't happen in a linear path. Life is dynamic, and habits need to evolve along with your goals, priorities, and circumstances. Regular habit reviews are essential for making sure your habits remain effective and relevant. A habit review allows you to reflect on your progress. It's easy to get discouraged when you're not seeing immediate results. A habit review helps you see how far you've come, reinforcing the progress you may not have noticed. Identify areas for improvement. Even good habits can be improved. A habit review gives you the opportunity to adjust your actions to make them more effective or sustainable. Align habits with changing goals. As your goals evolve, so should your habits. What worked for you 6 months ago may not be the best approach for you today. Habit reviews help you adjust your routines to keep them aligned with your current priorities. Stay accountable. Regular check-ins keep you accountable to your commitments, making it easier to stay consistent over time. By making habit reviews a regular part of your routine, you set yourself up for long-term success. How to conduct a habit review. A habit review doesn't have to be complicated, but it should be thoughtful and intentional. Here's a step-by-step guide to help you conduct a thorough review of your habits. Set a regular review schedule. Decide how often you want to review your habits. For some people, a weekly review works well. For others, a monthly or quarterly review is more effective. Whatever works for you, make it a habit to reflect on your progress regularly. You can set a reminder in your calendar or journal to make sure you don't skip it. Reflect on your current habits. Take a moment to reflect on the habits you've been working on. Are they helping you achieve your goals? Do they feel sustainable and aligned with your values? Write down a list of your key habits and note how well they are working for you. If any habit feels forced or isn't bringing you the results you expected, it's time to reassess it. Evaluate the results. Review the results of your efforts. For example, if your goal is to exercise more, are you feeling stronger, more energized, or more consistent with your workouts? If you've been tracking your eating habits, have you noticed changes in your health or weight? Look at the progress you've made and assess whether the habit is moving you closer to your desired outcome. Ask key questions. To make your review more effective, ask yourself the following questions. What habits have been the easiest to stick to? Why? What habits have been the hardest to maintain? What barriers have been in the way? Are any of my habits no longer serving me? If so, what can I replace them with? What new habits would I like to add? And how can I stack them with my existing habits? Look for patterns. Look for patterns in your habit performance. Do you tend to succeed with certain types of habits? For example, physical habits, like exercise, or mental habits like reading, but struggle with others? Identifying patterns will help you see what's working and where you might need to make adjustments. For example, you might notice that you struggle to maintain a habit when it's inconvenient, like working out early in the morning. In that case, you could try to move the habit to a time of day that works better for you. Celebrate wins, big and small. Take time to acknowledge your successes, even the small ones. Recognizing and celebrating progress reinforces the positive behavior and keeps you motivated to continue. For example, if you successfully stuck to your habit of reading 10 minutes every day for a month, take a moment to appreciate your consistency and the impact that small action has had on your knowledge and personal growth. How to improve your habits. A habit review not only helps you identify what's working, but also provides the opportunity to improve your habits. Here are some strategies for improving your habits based on your review. Break down large habits. If you find a habit overwhelming or difficult to maintain, break it down into smaller, more manageable actions. For example, if you want to run a marathon, but find the goal too daunting, start with shorter runs and gradually increase the distance over time. Small, incremental progress will make the habit feel more achievable and less intimidating. Make adjustments based on results. If a habit isn't delivering the results you expected, it's time to adjust. For example, if you've been trying to eat healthier, but haven't seen any changes in your energy or weight, try adjusting your diet by eliminating certain foods or adding more fruits and vegetables. You can experiment with different strategies until you find what works best for you. Remove barriers to success. If you're struggling to stick to a habit, look for the obstacles that are getting in the way. Maybe you're not exercising because your gym is too far away, or because you don't have time in your schedule. Think about how you can reduce friction and make it easier to follow through on your habit. This might mean finding a gym closer to home, scheduling your workouts at a consistent time, or making a workout playlist that motivates you. Add accountability. If you're not holding yourself accountable, it can be easy to let habits slip. Find ways to create external accountability. This might involve asking a friend to check in on your progress, or sharing your goals publicly. Accountability can also come from tracking your habits. Use a habit tracker app, or a calendar, to mark off each day you successfully complete your habit. The visual progress can help keep you motivated. Pair habits for maximum impact. If you're adding new habits to your routine, use habit stacking to make them easier to stick with. Pair a new habit with one you're already doing consistently. For example, if you want to meditate every morning, but struggle to find the time, stack it with your habit of making coffee. After I make my coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. Makes it easier to fit the new habit into your routine, without overwhelming yourself. Keep evolving. Your habits should evolve as you grow and change. What worked for you 6 months ago may not be the best fit for where you are now. As you reflect on your habits, consider whether they're still aligned with your goals. If you've reached a certain level of fitness, for example, you might want to challenge yourself with a more advanced workout routine. If your goal has shifted from weight loss to maintaining a healthy lifestyle, you may need to adjust your eating habits accordingly.
Oh,
The power of reflection. The act of reviewing and reflecting on your habits is powerful because it forces you to step back and evaluate what's truly working for you. It also helps you gain clarity about your progress, adjust your course when necessary, and reinforce the habits that are helping you succeed. Over time, habit reviews will help you build more effective routines and develop the self-awareness necessary for long-term success. As you improve your habits, you'll also improve your life. By consistently reflecting on your actions, you become the kind of person who continually strives for growth and positive change. Conclusion. Habit reviews are an essential part of the habit-building process. They allow you to assess what's working, identify areas for improvement, and stay on track toward your goals. By taking the time to reflect, adjust, and celebrate progress, you can ensure that your habits continue to serve you in the best possible way. So, make habit reviews a regular part of your routine, and let them guide you toward greater consistency, growth, and success. With each review, you'll refine your habits and continue to move closer to becoming the person you want to be. Chapter 14. Mastering the Art of Habit Change. Changing habits is one of the most powerful tools we have for shaping our lives. It's through our daily actions, our habits, that we create the results we want, whether those results are related to health, productivity, relationships, or personal growth. But building lasting habits isn't always easy. It requires persistence, patience, and a deep understanding of how habits work. In this final chapter, we'll recap the key principles you've learned throughout this book and explore how you can apply them to master the art of habit change. By embracing the tools and strategies shared here, you'll be able to shape your habits intentionally, break through obstacles, and create the life you truly want. The power of small changes. Throughout this book, we've emphasized one important truth: small, consistent changes have the power to transform your life. This is the core of Atomic Habits. It's not the dramatic overnight changes that lead to lasting results. It's the small daily improvements that compound over time. The key to creating lasting change is to focus on incremental progress. Instead of aiming for big results, commit to small habits that you can perform consistently. Whether it's reading 1 page a day, walking for 5 minutes, or drinking an extra glass of water, these tiny changes can create a snowball effect that leads to big results over time. The compound effect of small habits can't be underestimated. As you continue to build and reinforce small positive actions, you will eventually see significant changes in your health, mindset, and lifestyle. Remember, consistency is the secret ingredient to making these small habits work. The 4 laws of behavior change. In this book, we explored the 4 fundamental laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. These laws provide a simple, actionable framework for building good habits and breaking bad ones. Here's a quick recap. Make it obvious. Design your environment so that your good habits are easy to spot and your bad habits are harder to perform. Cues trigger habits, so make sure the triggers for your positive habits are visible and clear. Make it attractive. Make the behavior enjoyable by associating it with something you find rewarding. Whether it's pairing a new habit with something pleasurable, like listening to music while exercising, or focusing on the benefits, the more appealing a habit is, the more likely you are to stick with it. Make it easy, reduce friction, and make your desired habits as simple as possible to perform. Use the 2-minute rule to start small and remove obstacles that make it harder for you to follow through. The easier you make it to do something, the more likely you are to do it. Make it satisfying. Create immediate rewards that reinforce the behavior. Immediate satisfaction is one of the most powerful motivators for habit formation, so celebrate small wins and track your progress to feel a sense of accomplishment. These four laws work together to make the process of habit change smoother, more enjoyable, and sustainable. When you understand how to apply them, you're equipped to build habits that stick for the long term. The plateau of latent potential, trusting the process. As you work on building your habits, you may encounter the plateau of latent potential. This is the phase where you feel like you're not making progress, even though you're putting in consistent effort. It can be frustrating and discouraging, but this plateau is a natural part of the process. The key to overcoming the plateau is to understand that growth is happening beneath the surface. The work you're doing now is building a foundation for future success. Trust the process, keep showing up, and know that the results will come in time. Remember, it's not the big breakthroughs, but the steady small improvements that will ultimately lead to lasting change. Habit stacking, making habits seamless. One of the most powerful tools for building new habits is habit stacking. By pairing a new habit with an existing one, you can create a seamless routine that requires less effort and willpower. The existing habit acts as a trigger for the new one, making it easier to remember and follow through. Habit stacking works because it taps into the automaticity of your existing routines. You don't need to rely on motivation or willpower to remember to do your new habit. It happens naturally after your anchor habit. Start small and find habits that naturally align with one another. Over time, this strategy will allow you to add new positive behaviors to your life without feeling overwhelmed. The role of identity in habit change. One of the most important lessons in this book is the power of identity-based habits. Instead of focusing solely on outcomes, focus on becoming the type of person who embodies the habits you want to develop. If you want to get fit, think of yourself as someone who is fit. If you want to be productive, think of yourself as someone who gets things done. When you build habits based on who you want to become, rather than what you want to achieve, you create a sustainable foundation for growth. This shift in focus makes habits easier to maintain, because you're not just trying to accomplish something, you're living as the person who naturally engages in those behaviors. Staying motivated with the Goldilocks rule. Motivation can fluctuate, but the Goldilocks rule offers a way to keep it high. By finding the sweet spot between too easy and too difficult, you can ensure that your habits remain engaging and sustainable. A task that's too easy gets boring, while a task that's too difficult leads to frustration. The Goldilocks rule helps you maintain motivation by adjusting the level of difficulty so that it's always challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so overwhelming that you lose interest. Keep your habits in the sweet spot by gradually increasing the difficulty as you improve, and make sure you celebrate your progress along the way. With the Goldilocks rule, you can sustain motivation and build momentum toward your long-term goals. The importance of review and improvement. Building habits is a dynamic process, and it's essential to regularly review and refine your habits. Habit reviews help you identify what's working, what's not, and where you can make adjustments. They also provide an opportunity to celebrate your progress, reinforce positive behaviors, and ensure that your habits remain aligned with your goals. Don't be afraid to adjust your habits as you grow. Over time, your goals and priorities may shift, and your habits should evolve with them. A habit review gives you the opportunity to adapt your routine and make improvements, ensuring that you're always moving closer to becoming the person you want to be. Final thoughts. Mastering the art of habit change. Mastering the art of habit change isn't about perfection, it's about progress. The habits you build today will shape your future, and by following the strategies outlined in this book, you can create a life full of positive, sustainable habits. Remember, habits aren't just about achieving specific goals, they're about becoming the person who consistently lives in alignment with those goals. Whether it's through small changes, habit stacking, or focusing on your identity, you have the power to shape your behaviors and create the life you want. Take the lessons from this book and apply them to your life. Be patient, trust the process, and keep showing up every day. The more you practice the art of habit change, the more natural and effortless your habits will become. With consistency, persistence, and the right strategies, you'll build habits that last a lifetime.